Hi, this is Jackie Fuller, host and executive producer of Interfaith Connections. I know some of you have asked, like, what's been going on with the show? How are you handling the situation right now with COVID and all the other issues happening with the country, in the USA in particular, dealing with race? And it's not that for me it's been it's too much of a standstill. It's just for a production that normally tapes in the studio or in a TV studio, you're going and you're working with the staff, making arrangements to put the show together, to have the process of going from pre-production to production to post-production. Typically it keeps you busy, but with everything on lockdown and the station has been closed over the last few months, it was just like, okay, pretty much can't do much right now. And with the country being in the crisis situation with all the stuff that's been happening lately, houses of worship and religious leaders' energies have been shifted to their communities, which is pretty understandable. On my end, I did make the decision, as I announced on a couple of platforms, our social media platforms, that we are transitioning out of the studio, doing studio tapings and basically doing things on Zoom and maybe doing more field productions, which is something I wanted to do for a long time. And this is now the opportunity to do so. So I'm happy about that. The next step is what you've heard from the last announcement, is getting guests. So during this time, I decided I would just take some additional professional courses. I've actually decided to go back to do some web design and development training. So that's been keeping me busy the past few weeks. Is another reason why you haven't heard much from me. And then outside of that, I try to do pub theology when I can, which was the explanation of why the dates shifted when they used to be on Tuesdays instead of doing them on Wednesdays. And that was another factor because my classes were on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that will start up in September because I'll be going on my own personal hiatus from doing a lot of the production work in August around pub theology. So we won't be scheduling things doing that. But I do have some things I want to just also share with you in addition to that brief update there. We are still seeking guests. So if you want to pitch the show, I would say go to the website, www.interfaithconnections.com. Look at the list for be a guest, because those are the urgent ones we're looking for right now. And in addition to that, you can also just submit on a contact page, say, hey, this is a good pitch for a topic for the show. Let me know what you think. So that's how I will be able to determine what will be gearing up for the next round of episodes. So that helps there. Specialized topics. And I'm thinking about doing more in regards to seeing more of the African presence worldwide in various forms of spirituality. It's been something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I think this would be a good chance to do that. It'll be a good opportunity not only to show what people from different races and cultures do in their spiritual practices, but also how these different religious groups ties in with maybe other groups, religious and non-religion, and people from different countries and races do things differently in some of their activities and teachings and so forth. So I'm looking actually forward to doing that. That's going to be a major thing to do, but it gives me more time to do some research as well, since we're pretty much in quarantine right now. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I also want to cover more controversial topics because I feel like a lot of things done in the interfaith movement is very kumbaya-ish, as I like to say. But I really would like to discuss more topics in that. One topic that came up recently with a colleague, he mentioned or had a discussion about racism in the interfaith movement, which I would love to deal with that more. I would like to deal with that more in particular because for me, being a woman of African descent, being born here in the U.S. as African American, having a father who's from Jamaica, that's a whole nother perspective of race, religion, and culture. For me, I do my own thing. So I'm not around a lot of the racism that they speak because I run my own production. I run this show. I dictate, the kind of, and as a leader, I do dictate the environment in a production. And I am glad to say it's a very inclusive environment. However, I know probably a lot of other elements in the movement, how organizations are run and who's running them, and the environments. Some of those environments are probably all toxic, some are not. But if that is that, I want to say if it is a concern that there's that discussion with racism in this movement, and I would like to really find out from people what they've experienced and what can be done moving forward. So that would be something I definitely want to cover over the next few weeks. I'm trying to think of any other issues other than what's going on in the country. That's a big one now, dealing with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. I know there's some concerns about how the organization itself is doing one kind of message versus what's going on maybe in the field, or how maybe people like the concept of Black Lives Matter, but they may not like, I guess, some of the organizational things being done behind that. So I would be curious to say, you know, what does Black Lives Matter mean to a particular individual, not from the organization perspective, but from their own personal understanding of that. And so if you want to talk about Black Lives Matter and those perspectives, feel free to reach out to me as well, particularly because we do things on religion and spirituality. And those of you who are secular, atheists, humanists, you know, you're always welcome to come on to discuss any kind of topic, and that would be a good one to talk about as well. For those of you who are affiliated with any groups dealing with adoption and helping people get out of jail who are innocent, and those of you who are working in or support missing person organizations, I would like to get more public service announcements or PSAs around those organizations and notices about that. I think those are very important topics that need to be highlighted more in our media, and it really isn't. Another one I am very passionate about and ending is human trafficking, and particularly sex trafficking. So those are the type of public service announcements and messages I would like to feature more in the program. Or if you work in those environments and you want to be interviewed, and how to get your message out more, encourage more faith-based things, you know, that could be doing from a faith-based perspective, we can do and get that word out. Let me know as well, because that's a big one I want to cover on the show, and as well as doing PSAs or public service announcements. And let's see, the big one that's going on right now too is funding. We're looking for people to sponsor Pub Theology, as well as sponsor the production itself, similar to what you see in a typical TV show programming, or maybe on some of the YouTube channels where people would sponsor a particular company or brand or show or podcast. We're doing the same thing because we do want to start doing more with this production. The intention is by 2021, minus quarantine at the time, that we were going to start also doing more field shoots and actually start to travel in different places in the U.S. and do kind of a world tour to different spots across the different countries to talk about Interfaith Connections and talk about the interfaith movement and interfaith work going on in different places. So that's something you'll be seeing coming up soon. There'll be two options we're looking at doing, and we may do actually both of them. One will be, we'll just have a typical sponsor sheet. It'll lay out the different opportunities you can sponsor the organization, different rankings, and how you can support us and our work. And then number two will be a crowdfunding thing, which is also something similar, which maybe people who couldn't do maybe the amounts from a sponsorship side, you can actually just go ahead and be participating in the crowdfunding as a donor with that. So hopefully I will be able to get that to you in the next couple of weeks. And then of course, I mentioned Pub Theology. For those of you who may have missed the earlier part, we will be back in September. I'm looking at promoting those more often, doing them on Tuesdays. Will not be every Tuesday because we're not meeting in person here in the Northern Virginia area, but we may do it again twice a month using more online resources such as Zoom, and maybe trying to tap into some other things to reach out to more of an audience, or maybe even doing them different times of the day, because it also has an international outreach perspective to it, and we have people who join Pub Theology from all over the world. That's a neat thing. So it'd be nice to be able to have that for everyone to check out again. So that's pretty much the update. In the meantime, while we're in this transition, I will also start including on our social media platforms different news articles that's out there if you want to keep a track what's going on with different faiths and what's going on within those communities, and anyone else who has a particular belief system that we want to highlight. and what they're doing in just in the global space. We're going to start including more of those. So you'll start seeing more news articles and things posted, and maybe also I'll share some upcoming events that the different faith-based and interfaith-based organizations are doing. So this is pretty much the next chapter you're experiencing. This production has been around 8 years as of last June, and we look forward to many more. So please, everyone, be safe out there. Please do not put yourself in the situation being in crowds, particularly houses of worship, while the COVID-19 situation is still going on. We do not need to have any more people getting sick. Do not take the risk to do it. Please utilize all the sources you have at home to maintain, to being well at home. And when I mean at home, that means watching your Sunday services and other your worship services by your computer or your smartphone. So otherwise, be well, take care, and peace and blessings to you. See you soon. Bye-bye.